History is being made as Nigeria transits from another democratically elected government and administration, which will be evident on the Nigerian economy. So, how has the Nigerian economy fared in the last 3 decades?
We need to understand that tracing Nigeria's economy is not limited to the last 3 decades. So I would say that Nigeria moved from a non-oil export economy to an oil export economy, and now is obviously faced with the challenge of returning to a non-oil export economy. Over the past 30 years or thereabout, since 1970, when oil was discovered in Olobiri, Nigeria has revolved around crude oil. The destiny of Nigerians has been planned in line with expected revenue from crude oil. And what has this done? This has made it impossible for us to craft economic programs and projects that could have been fed with revenue from other sources.
There has been a deliberate paradigm shift from dependence on oil in international trade to the non-oil export, thereby making the world one big global marketplace, with global economies becoming increasingly interlinked and interdependent.
Singapore, with its very small land space, Singapore is, if not number 3, probably number 4 in terms of global market share in export. Singapore does not manufacture most of those things. I think one of the most popular is ornamental fish that Singapore is renowned for. All of these people were made based on the word deliberate adoption of an export orientation. It's the same with President Barack Obama, former President Barack Obama. In 2008, the United States of America was staring recession straight in the face. Of course, the recession came in 2009. But by 2008, the Obama administration acknowledged the imminent recession, and therefore he went into crafting what he called then the Obama Export Initiative. It was OEI at first. Today, it has succeeded his administration. Donald Trump, with all the deliberate efforts to suppress whatever Obama created, even Joe Biden, they are running on the Obama Export Initiative. In fact, it has now been enacted into a law that is called the National Export Initiative under Trump. Now it has been scaled up to National Export Initiative Next. It's being right now implemented by Joe Biden's administration. All of these are deliberate decisions. And when Obama launched the Obama Export Initiative, he made a definite statement. America will double its export to the world. America, under this initiative, will create 5 million jobs over the next 5 years. So that's a deliberate pronouncement that already imposed a target on himself.
What are the expectations of Nigerians from the incoming Bola Tinubu administration?
Like most Nigerians, I would like to see a complete turnaround of the Nigerian economy, a complete positive turnaround of the Nigerian economy. Let me start by recounting an encounter I had about a week ago. A completely illiterate farmer of northern extraction. He farms a very small piece of land next to Hole 9 in the GEJ Golf Club where I play. He plants okra. And then once the rains begin to go, he immediately plants groundnuts or beans in that small plot of land. Now I had an encounter with him where I now asked him, Yosheza Farah Chinkubewa, when are we going to start to eat okra again? And the man said, Baba Mukejira, we are waiting for Baba Tinubu. What are you waiting for him for? His answer was quite simple. I Tinubu shi danka swane. He understands market forces. He understands business. This is an illiterate farmer explaining this to me. I'm fascinated. I forgot about taking my t-shirt. I spent the next 25 minutes exchanging ideas with this man, and he spoke the minds of Nigerians, including me, that there is a very hungry hope and expectation of not just a tinkering, but a complete overhaul of the direction of Nigeria's economy. So now let's leave the illiterate man's understanding. Let's come to what has been our bane all over the years. Like we said, for over 40 years, we have been controlled. Our brain has been controlled by oil. What I would love to see in the new administration is a commitment to transforming Nigeria's destiny and future into a non-oil export-driven economy. This is not a pipe dream. This is an achievable dream. This is something that can actually be a short-term achievement rather than a longer-term achievement. Why do I say this? I say it because I know that a supply-based study carried out by Nigeria Export Promotion Council, dating back to about 9-10 years ago, identified over 5,000 products where Nigeria has potential. In a presentation I made, I can't remember, somewhere last year or the year before, I do have slides, table of information called from the International Trade Center and CIA World Fact Book that records Nigeria as either number 1 or number 2 leading producer in the world of 20 commodities, agricultural commodities, where Nigeria is number 1 or number 2 largest producer. Unfortunately, also in that presentation, I had a slide that captured top 10 producers of selected commodities across the world. In all the 20 where Nigeria is ranked as top or second top producer in the world, Nigeria does not feature at all. Nigeria is not reaping, is not controlling, is not benefiting from the slightest percentage of global market trade in these particular commodities. So it is doable that we have a deliberate economic direction that now says, yes, we need to look inward, look at these things that not just potential now, that realistically we are producing. I give a good example. I grew up in Niger State, not too far from here. I grew up in a region that produces, I don't want to say produces because that means that they consciously grow it. They do not grow. A region where shea nut butter, and remember Nigeria is rated as either number 2 or number 3 largest producer of shea nuts in the world. These things grow in the wild. It was enough for us as primary school students for our breakfast, and we didn't have to climb the trees. You just go, you pick, they are ripe, and then you eat chew or suck. Along the streets, it was not done by the local government. Mango trees, go confirm it today. All the way from Lapai till you get to Bida, there is no gap of 50 meters that you will not find a mango tree. It's not planted by anybody. These are areas that Nigeria can look at. I participated in Governor Sheboni's administration in the state. We did a study of jatropha. Just by using jatropha as the demarcation on the highway, we could produce about 650,000 tons of jatropha seed. Jatropha is one of the, and jatropha is not really planted. Jatropha is toxic. So they say is the what we call it, biological analysis. It's supposed to be toxic, but jatropha oil is one of the most expensive in the world. And I'm listing non-traditional, non-popular products. I'm trying to divert the thinking away from cocoa, cashew, palm oil, and what have you. But even the traditional ones, Nigeria continues to regret and continues to accuse very wrongly a country like Malaysia that they came to Nigeria and picked the palm oil seed. And today the world market price of oil palm is quoted ex Kuala Lumpur. Is it their fault that they saw an opportunity and they appropriated it? If they picked the oil palm seed from Nigeria and today they are not just the world's largest producer, but they control world trade in palm oil, what I would love to see in this incoming administration is a deliberate effort to identify those areas. Let's move to solid minerals. Nigeria is rated as of today, based on statistics from Raw Material Research and Development Council and the Federal Ministry of Mines and Steel Development now. Based on the available data from them, Nigeria has at least 43 solid minerals that are available in large quantities, large deposits that can be commercially exploited. The Nigerian micro, small, and medium enterprises, they not only can, they have what it takes to be the hub of a new export direction. Why and how do I know this? I will name some companies that are owned individually by women who are actually depending on their own talent and meager resources. There's a company in Lube, Bimcaf. Bimcaf transforms coconut to different products. But Bimcaf has one of those products that is actually world market ready. Baked coconut flakes. I'm trying to remember the other one. Coconut flour, coconut powder. Of course, everybody knows coconut oil. But in these areas alone, Bimcaf does have products that are packaged and labeled to world international standards. I am aware that Bimcaf exports this in small quantities within our resources to the US right now. There are supermarkets that receive Bimcaf coconut snacks. She recently began to ship to Switzerland and to the UK, one individual. There is Ijeoma, I can't remember. Okay, Ijeoma is AM Foods. AM Foods does date powder and date syrup. That's a small operation. Date powder and date syrup of AM Foods will knock out any such product from any other part of the world. That's an individual. There is Vivian Macarius date this thing right here in Abuja. is also owned by a woman. There's a woman in Ibadan, in the industrial park there. Hey, what's her name? Oakland Best. Oakland Best does food processing, even on a contract basis, that you can take your gari. I have taken gari to that particular facility to be repackaged for me for export to Canada. These people are there in pockets of them. Smedan has been doing fantastically to produce nano, micro, small and medium enterprises that are operating individually and in silos. Now let's bring this back to national scope. A supermarket chain like Walmart that has about 3,500 outlets in Canada, it not just in Canada, I mean not even in Canada, but in the GTA alone, the Greater Toronto Area alone, about 3,500 supermarket outlets. Imagine scaling up. Imagine producing 100 or 1,000 bean calves that are producing coconut-based snacks out of Nigeria. I assure you that even 1,000 bean calves will find it difficult to produce enough quantity for Walmart to put on their shelves. Now, Walmart is a company that will not buy one container and then the customers fall in love with it today. Tomorrow it's not available on their shelf. Walmart's global procurement philosophy is a minimum of 100 containers per month for a minimum contract period of 10 years.
Nigeria is blessed with abundant human resources which can be classified under the non-oil export as services exports.
Services export is an area where Nigeria is yet to start. I think about maybe 12 years or something ago, I was part of a three-man team, international consultants, that the Commonwealth Secretariat contributed to Nigeria to help develop a services export strategy. But whenever you hear talk about Nigeria's export, 80% of the time you hear a listing of export products and commodities. You hear a campaign for value-added export. Fantastic. I do not support the continued exportation of Nigeria's commodities in their raw form. I support and I advocate for value addition, at least semi-processing. But we are ignoring services, which the International Trade Center in Geneva has identified as actually accounting for about 67% of global trade. What this means is that for every unit of an export product, what goes into its production is most likely 67% services. Now, people in trying to understand services, when you say, oh, services export, they are wondering. Of course, you will wonder, because services are majorly intangible, they are majorly invisible. Services trade does not require physical movement of persons or goods, and therefore it does not require the humongous capital outlay for the export that we know in its traditional manner right now. Nigeria for a long time has been an exporter of services without officializing that as a component of Nigeria's economic base. The head office building, I don't know if they have had a new one now, of the African Development Bank about 20 years ago, was designed by a Nigerian architect. That architect was paid in US dollar. As of today, Sorry, I'm not sure I know their names. I'm old school. Wizkid, Denny, P Square, Burna Boy, and all of those. They are earning billions abroad. They are talents that Nigeria exported. I do not think that Nigerian Bureau of Statistics or Central Bank of Nigeria Trade and Exchange Department, I do not think that they have any template for capturing the economic income of these talents that is supposed to also be reported as part of our export earnings. I'm an avid and passionate football fan. I've been an Arsenal fan for I don't remember how long, and I will continue to be. And I have also been following whether they eventually decide to play for Nigeria or they play for England, or like Folarin Balogun, who just last week opted to play for the United States of America. All of these are services that Nigeria exported or is exporting. You go to any country, hey, where are you coming from? I was in Qatar in 2019. As soon as I said Nigeria, the next thing, oh, Okocha, Kanu. That's the way they know them. If somebody like Bukayo Saka, who, by the way, before he made his final international commitment to England, Bukayo was even invited to the Super Eagles. He trained with them once before he finally committed to England. There is no part of him that is England. From the blood to the name, to even his smile when you see him playing, his Nigerian smile. He's just signed a contract that enables him, that is worth about just a little under £300,000 per week as a footballer. That's a talent that Nigeria has exported. Even if they are not repatriating this in the physical form, I believe that it is part of economic development and economic performance for Nigeria to be able to capture the services that is exported. Again, like I said, because services are intangible and invisible, people usually do not easily understand what services are. I came across documentaries produced by Adekoye Production, a Taiwo Adekoye documentary. Probably Taiwo Adekoye has not been to Australia, but Taiwo Adekoye's documentary is played on Australian TV on Australia National Day. The Taiwo Adekoye documentary is playing on Super Madrid. But Taiwo Adekoye is in Nigeria. I know a lady lawyer here in Abuja whose 90% of her legal practice, I'm trying to remember, Nkiru, 90% of her legal practice is actually from Qatar and Lebanon. Her office is here in Abuja. She is operating, before COVID, these people were already operating online businesses, services export. I got so fired up about this in 2003, 2004. I was on a short-term consultancy in Geneva, Switzerland, when I had the management of ITC discussing women in services export and trying to locate a pilot program in Tunisia. Of course, the Nigeria in me would not accept that. And because the project I was handling was an evaluation of the overall South-South trade development project of the ITC funded by the United Nations, I fought, not physically, intellectually, as an advocate. I fought for that program to be located in Nigeria. And that is the origin of the existence of the network of Nigerian women exporters of services. To give it enough flesh to take off, I offered the network my office in Ogba Ikeja for the first 1 year. I offered my own professional services free of charge to ensure the establishment of NWES. Today we have an NWES. I don't hear much about them in recent years, but this is a potential that Nigeria, like I said, is not even recording. I know this for a fact because export performance in Nigeria is captured by the form NXP, Nigeria Export Proceeds Form. We have NXP form for products. We do not have NXP form for services.
As Nigeria and Nigerians eagerly await and with hunger and hope the takeoff of the new administration, it is desirable and imperative that the managers of the country's economy in the new dispensation not only grasp the availability of these myriads of opportunities, resources and potentials, but speedily design policies, projects and programs that will ensure that the country truly harnesses them. Therein lies a realistic and vibrant hope of turning the nation's economy completely away from the erstwhile over-reliance on crude oil. In line with the recently launched mantra of the Nigerian Export Promotion Council (NEPC), Nigeria must export to survive.